Hi, how's everybody going? Welcome to my live stream, and today I am going to show how I made one of my YouTube shorts. The YouTube short is called Attack 3. We'll keep running Attack, and it has, at the moment, I'll just show you, I'll get rid of this. I'll show you here. This YouTube short has over 4.3 million views. So I thought I'd just give you a quick introduction, a quick how I did or how I created this YouTube short. So this is the short here. It's filmed on top of Mount Gravatt Mountain in Brisbane, and you can see Brisbane City in the background here. And you can see that Professor Eggtop runs out of the building, runs across, runs past the camera, which is filmed on a mobile phone. And then Gerald, the guinea pig, is probably had some peanuts where he's not allowed to eat peanuts because strange things happen. And he comes up and he sort of screams, and that's the end of the short. These shorts have become quite popular on YouTube Shorts, so I'm really happy about that. And so I thought I'd give you a bit of a quick tour about how, or show you how it was made. So first, I had to come up with the idea, obviously, and I like the view from Mount Gravatt in Brisbane, so Mount Gravatt Mountain. So I went up Mount Gravatt Mountain to the lookout, and shot on my mobile phone. I shot this background plate you can see here. So this is the lookout here. You can see Brisbane City in the background. And so I had to time it. Think of the scenario. I thought that Professor Eggtop will run past the camera, and then Gerald would come up behind the laboratory. Obviously, the laboratory is not there, so I had to find a nice place that it was sort of semi-flat, so I can put a building in the background here. So what I did is I filmed it and sort of counted, or to get the timing right, I needed to sort of talk to myself and saying, okay, Professor Eggtop runs past the camera here, pan back, look up at Gerald going over the building, and then move back a little bit. So I had to do that sort of timing to keep it within maybe, 16 seconds or so. So I started with a pan towards the building, moving back a little as Professor Eggtop runs past here, and then pan back, and then tilt up to see Gerald climbing the building there, and walk back a little bit from there. So all up, that was about 16 seconds. So once I did that, I took that footage and I brought it into what's called Syntheyes. Syntheyes is a tracking software that you can purchase. It's commercial software. It's not free, sorry, but it is a commercial software, but it's very good at doing this type of tracking. And I've used it for many different projects. You can see on my YouTube channel. So to do this, basically you can go bring in the footage, import the footage, and then you can go auto track, and it will make these tracking markers along the footage like so. You delete the trackers that you don't want, and then you can go into the solver and do another refine track. You can go up here and find erratic trackers, and then clean up trackers, and then do another solve to refine it. And so your camera and the tracking gets better and better as each time you refine the track. So what this software does, it finds points in space on the footage, and then the tracking markers are put on the footage here, and it works with parallax. So for the tracking markers here, and there's more tracking markers up here, it calculates the parallax between the 2 points. And then it also calculates the camera position, which you can see here. So once we have the tracking markers tracked and the camera tracked as well, you can see the camera moving here, up here like so. Track. And then you can place in these, or you can select the trackers that you think that are on the plane that you want to make it as the ground plane. And yeah, you select those and then you make the grid. So you select for example, you can select these ones here. And you can right click actually I have to go to 3D mode here, go to perspective, then you can go right click, grid, use these vertices to the ground, and then select it again, the grid, make grid the ground. And that allows you to have the trackers along 0 on the axis there. Yes, my name is Matt. Just looking at the chat here. James is here. Hi, James. How's it going, mate? Okay, so yeah, we then can place in, for example, if I want to put a box, and I could put a box here, for example. This is maybe the height of Professor Eggtop. Oh, not that high. Do that again. Right, click. Okay, so that's a bit higher than Professor Eggtop, probably, but you can see that that is now in 3D space here, and the camera can move around, and it's matching the background like that. So with Syntheyes, you've got to keep on refining, deleting bad track markers, and always refining it so you can get to, back to the solver, so you can get to it, the pixel error. This is down the right-hand corner. Oh, no, hang on. Down the right-hand corner here. Get rid of my camera there. Right-hand corner, you can see the HPIX. That's the error that that are with the trackers. And if it's under 1, it's pretty good. The best is to get it all into the green. If you've got a lot of red, you need to delete those trackers and refine it even more. Okay, bring my camera back. Okay. Another comment here, Miguel. Thank you for the comment. Can you make Gerald to get millions of Geralds? Millions of Geralds. I have an idea for a future one where there will be many Geralds. Millions of Geralds might be a bit much. I'll see what I can do though. Anyway, so once we have the tracking done, we can go to export. And if you go all the way down here, I use a 3D software called Modo, and we have a Perl script here for the export to Modo. So just select that and it will go make a script that you can then import into Modo. So what we'll do is we'll open Modo and we'll go to System, Run Script here, and that will take us to the Perl script that we just exported from Syntheyes, and import that. It'll take a little bit of time. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so what it's done is it's brought the background plate that I shot with the mobile phone. It's taken the background plate and brought it into the environment for Modo here. That's the background plate there. You can see it there. And it's also brought in all of the tracking markers that was created in Syntheyes. So all the tracking markers are here. You can see them, I believe. I'll just go into perspective, go in here. All these here are locators in Modo that were the tracking markers in Syntheyes. And it's also brought in those ground planes that I put in for the ground to show me where the ground plane is. And so if we scroll through here, we can see that in 3D space, I'll just get rid of this camera because that's an old or default camera. We don't need that one in there. Because in the Syntheyes folder, we have the camera here. And so that brings the camera in with the locators and the background plate, and we can see that the camera is now tracked and brought into Modo, like so. Now, the good thing about this script, it brings it into Modo in a folder like this folder here. So when it brings it into a folder, the scale is at 100%, position is at 000. So that there is 000. Actually, that locator is very close to 000. Oh, very good. Right at 000. Awesome. Anyway, with Modo, you can select the folder and you can scale the scene, and you can move and rotate the scene how you want. So, for example, if I bring in a character that is 1 meter by 1 meter tall, so let's make a primitive and a primitive square, and this is my character, for example, and I will put him at 0, and he is 1 meter tall. This is a 1 meter dimension tool, 1 meter square, like this cube. But you can see in the camera view here that 1 meter square is very big within the scene of the Syntheyes import. So what we can do is we can scale the folder with all the, like the plane, the trackers, locations, the trackers or the locators, and the camera. And we can scale that up. So for example, let's scale that to 500%. So you can see now the square is sort of looking much better within the scene. The camera is still okay. It's still tracked nicely, but the scene within the camera and the locators is scaled to 500%. So that means that the square is much smaller within the scene. So that's how I adjust the scene with the trackers and the camera to fit my characters. You can even bring back, if you have the Syntheyes scene selected, bring back the whole scene. So you can move the whole scene here, move it around, and all the trackers and the camera are intact. So we can even make it even bigger. So let's go 800%. Now the 1 meter square is smaller within the scene, but everything is still intact compared to the background plate. Okay, KR Graphics. Nice to meet you, mate. Again, yes, it is Syntheyes. That was the tracking software. This now is Modo, as you would know. Okay, cool. So once that's brought into Modo, I can now bring in my characters. So let's have a look at the scene with... first I needed to bring in the building, the laboratory. So open this folder. So this is the laboratory here. You can see the trackers here, and the laboratory now, go back to the first frame, is placed on top of the background plate here. So I thought this would be a good way to hide the cars and put the building on this plane here. So we put that in here, bring that back. So this is the laboratory, Professor Eggtop's laboratory. And now that fits perfectly on the background plate, like so. Moving through here, moving through. Cool. And then the camera pans up and we see Gerald here. So in this scene, what I did with the Syntheyes folder, I made it at 925%. And that kept my buildings at 100%. And I just moved the buildings using the folder, position and rotation. I moved it back, rotated it a little bit, so it was right in the perspective. Okay, so then we bring in Professor Eggtop and Gerald. So Gerald in this one, as you would have seen in the video, is massive here. He's in the background there. So he's massive here, but you can't see him from the camera. He's hidden by the building. And Professor Eggtop runs out of the building like so. Yeah, that. And he keep running, and he runs past the camera. In this shot, I noticed when I'm filming, I'm not tall, but I'm taller than Professor Eggtop. So when he runs past the camera, I'm like a foot above him. Like I'm quite tall, but that's okay. But he runs past there. Then we go back, and then Gerald is in the background coming up like that. With Gerald and Professor Eggtop, they're all modeled and rigged in Modo. The rigging is Character Box, which I love to use. And let's just bring up some, oh, no, not that folder. Bring up, for example, Gerald's Character Box rig. Click on that. The macro that I show how you can make these macros on my YouTube channel. So do check out my YouTube channel to find out how I create these selectors. So here, the selector, I can select his head, and I can move him around, select his body, move him around like that. This geometry isn't very dense, it's quite low poly, but still smooth. So the performance is actually quite good within Modo. And Character Box does a great job of speeding it up because they've got their own locators to deform the mesh. So if we go in here, I'll just turn off my dimensions tools, and I'll bring up Professor Eggtop, Character Box, Selector here, and I can turn off the rigging here, or turn on the rigging controllers like this. Let's hide his geometry for a second. And can you see these? This is Character Box underneath. Let me just change the transparency a little bit. Box, rig item, transparency, bring that down to say like 85. Even more, so you can see it better. So that's the rigging, or the rig underneath the skeleton of Professor Eggtop there. And I can use the selector to select and then animate how I want him So bring back the geometry, turn off the rig, that. And we don't need to see all the trackers this stage. So that is Professor Eggtop running. And so yeah, so once the animation is done, I would then export or render out all the frames. I would render out a final color. Let's go and have a look at those. So go to render out images. I'd render out an ambient occlusion to help with the shadows, the alpha of the whole scene, final color for everything. And then I would do some different renders like the outside of the lab, the characters. So this would be Gerald character. This would be Professor Eggtop. Also do alpha for his skin, so I can adjust his skin later in post. Do an alpha for the ground. And the alpha with the ground will have some of the shadows on it, so I can composite that in as well. And then alpha for Gerald. So once all those have been exported, oh, by the way, I use Empath for the renderer, and using Empath, it goes pretty quickly, sending it at about 64 samples using the Foundry SSE CPU. I use the CPU because I send it to a render farm, garagefarm.net, and that if I use the like a GPU here, it won't render because I only use they don't accept GPU renders from Modo. And then on the final color, final color, I usually put a denoising on. It depends with fur because I render out fur as well. The Intel is good denoise. That is usually good. Sometimes I use the NVIDIA, but usually the Intel works better for these scenes because it's got the fur. Okay, so send it off the render farm, come back, download the images, and we go into After Effects. Yeah, so there you go, James. I just asking if I denoise in post or render. Yeah, I usually use the denoiser in render, just because it's faster. Sometimes I would try and use it in post, but most of the time I do it in render. That's a pretty good job, especially for these shorts. It's not Pixar. It's a 16-second short, and a little bit of noise kind of helps. Okay, so we've got the background plate. We just scroll that. We've got that. So now the final, let me just sort of show that. Oh, it's got a, no, not that one. This one, building. So you can see the building just popped in there. And if I scroll through, the building is now locked to the background, like that. I often, when I do tracking, the best way, you have to sort of hide the seams. So you'll notice this tree here placed in front of the building between the building and the background plate is sort of hiding the seam, so it integrates better with the background. It's a little trick that helps sell the track and the composite. If it was a straight line here, then the background actually had railing, and I didn't want to put railing in front and then align the railing again here. So the tree hides the railing and hides the seam there to make it an easy composite, easy-ish composite. Now you'll see in the background here, on the background plate, we've got a big tree here casting a shadow over here. So if we go back into a Modo, you can see that I've got these big trees here, which are massive compared to the scene. But I needed those trees that would cast a shadow on Professor Eggtop as he runs out of the building and into the sun, and also shadows onto the building to help integrate the building a bit more. So scrolling along here, this is the full background plate. So we're just scrolling here and we have Professor Eggtop running out, and it actually has a mask on it here. So what we can do is turn that off and then turn that off. And we can see now Professor Eggtop running out here. Scrolling through. I'll just turn that down a bit. We'll go to thirds. It's quite large, so it scrolls through easier. So you can see Professor Eggtop has comes out of the shadow here with the shadow, with the leaves and everything having some shadow on him. Then he comes out of the shadow there, and he's in full sunlight there, just to sell it a bit more. He's got a shadow here that is using the ambient occlusion and the shadow, or the alpha pass, to make a shadow here that goes onto the background. So you can see it there. Sells it a bit more. And there we go. And then once he goes past, yells to run away, we go back and we pan up and we see Gerald here. Let me just bring this down a bit. Climbing up the building. I put a little bit more animation on the telescope here, so he sort of pushes it down, and then later I put some sound effects in it as well, just to help sell it. And he sort of screams like Godzilla there. Okay. So then once that's done, I export it to Premiere and I record my voice and do the voices, which is a bit weird, but it's a very tight budget, so it's just my voice. And then I upload it to YouTube Shorts, via YouTube Shorts, via the mobile phone and the mobile phone app for YouTube. And then in the YouTube app, you can add or choose music that is you're allowed to use. They've got a probably tie up with all these musicians like Ed Sheeran and all that kind of stuff, and you can just scroll through it in the YouTube app. You can scroll through them. You can choose the track that the music track that you want. It could be a very famous artist, and then you can adjust where you want the music to be within that track. And so I have in some of my YouTube shorts, I have like what's called a jump scare, where something jumps towards the camera, and so you want an impactful music beat at that point. And so you can adjust the music track to your liking. You can't take the voice out. You can't do a whole. You can't even adjust the volume. I don't think in TikTok you can, but not in YouTube Shorts. But you can adjust where you want your YouTube short to have the music, and which is pretty good, which is very good. And then you can add text to it, and then you upload it, and then hopefully you get a lot of views. So yeah, hopefully that's been of some use, I hope you've enjoyed that. It's sort of behind the scenes sort of look there. If you have any other questions, James, you got a question? No? Okay. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll be doing more of these, usually around 30 minutes live streams. If you have any questions in the future ones, let me know, or requests like Millions of Geralds. I will look into that one. Okay. Thanks for watching, and keep looking out for the YouTube Shorts. I will probably be uploading one every 4 days or so. So yeah, keep watching.